The rain had been falling all morning, a steady rhythm against the window. I sat on the old couch, flipping through my phone, my thumb scrolling endlessly through nothing that really mattered. It was a Sunday, and Sundays had always felt slow, but today felt especially heavy. The kind of heavy that settles in your chest and makes everything feel a little less bright. Mom was in the kitchen, humming softly as she folded the laundry. The familiar scent of fresh detergent filled the air. It was one of those small things I never really paid attention to, the way she hummed while doing chores. She always hummed the same melody, one I couldn't quite place but had known my whole life. I sighed, setting my phone aside. "Mom, why do you always hum that song?" She looked up, a little surprised that I had spoken. "This song," she smiled, folding a shirt carefully. "It was your lullaby when you were a baby. I used to sing it to you when you couldn't sleep." I frowned, trying to recall it. "I don't remember." She chuckled, placing the neatly folded clothes into a basket. "That's okay. You were so little, but every time I hum it, I remember how tiny you were, how you'd grip my fingers so tightly, like you were afraid to let go." I didn't know what to say to that. It was such a simple memory for her, but it hit me like a wave. I had never really thought about those moments, about how much of me she carried in her heart, even the parts I had long forgotten. I watched as she moved to the next pile, her hands working with a practiced grace. How many times had these hands held me when I cried? How many times had they packed my lunch, fixed my clothes, smoothed down my hair without a second thought? And yet, how often had I really looked at them? Her fingers were thinner now, slightly wrinkled, veins more visible beneath her skin. I thought back to when I was little, when those same hands had seemed so strong, so endless in their ability to care for me. But time had passed, hadn't it? And I had been too busy growing up to notice that she was getting older, too. A lump formed in my throat. "Mom, do you ever get tired?" She paused, glancing at me with a soft expression. "Of what, sweetheart, doing all of this?" I gestured vaguely at the laundry, at the house, at everything she always did, taking care of everything. She smiled then, a quiet, knowing smile. "Of course, I get tired. But love doesn't really stop just because you're tired. It just finds a way to keep going." Something in her voice made my chest ache. I had spent so much of my life being cared for that I had never really thought about what it took, what it cost. And yet, she had done it anyway, without complaint, without expectation. I reached out, taking one of her hands in mine. She looked at me in surprise, but I just held it, running my fingers over hers, feeling the warmth, the quiet strength. "Thank you, Mom," I whispered. She blinked, her eyes shining a little too brightly. "Oh, honey. You never have to thank me," but I did. Because for the first time, I truly saw her. Not just as my mother, but as a person who had given so much of herself without ever asking for anything in return. And that, I realized, was something I would never take for granted again.